goes ever on and on, down from the door where it began. Now far away the road has gone, and I must follow if I can. Hello! So today, as the title says, is kind of a sad day. Today I am here to review The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, the last time we are going into Middle-earth. Sad, so sad, so sad, but so awesome at the same time. Now, I did see this when it came out in December, and if you're wondering why I haven't reviewed it, I didn't take time to do it. But I recently started to rewatch the Hobbit films for the bazillionth time, and here we are. Now, in case you don't know, I do have a blog. I actually have two blogs, a Tumblr blog and then a Blogspot blog. And my Blogspot blog, I actually have a written review for The Desolation of Smaug, the second movie, and I will link it down in the doobly-doo. Now, this is spoilery. To watch this, you have to have seen all 3 movies and read the book. If you haven't done that, you're out of luck. Goodbye, those who don't want to be spoiled. Hello, those who don't care or have seen it all. How do I feel about this movie? It's amazing! 5 out of 5 stars. A favorite, of course. I always talk that my favorite book-to-movie adaptations are The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Desolation of Smaug is my favorite movie of all time. Why wouldn't this make the top? Even though I love it, there are problems, especially for the fangirl in me. One of the things is Kili and Tauriel. Now, in my Desolation of Smaug written review, I talk about how that bothered me, but it makes for a better movie. I still hold true to that. It bugs the crap out of me, but at the same time, it makes the movie better. Now, if you're still like, but, let's hold on. Before you start hating on Peter Jackson for this, did you guys see the fan events? The fan event, I don't know if you know that, Desolation of Smaug, after it came out on DVD, they had a fan event where in multiple cities worldwide, live at the same time, a whole bunch of different cast members and those behind the scenes, such as the director of Weta and of course Peter Jackson, were all there on camera answering questions fans either tweeted or sent in or asked there. They asked Lily Evangeline, who plays Tauriel, about it, and she said, okay. Now, in case you guys don't know, she's from Lost. And they actually said, how did you feel about being in another love triangle like Lost? And she said, actually, I hated it. Because in her contract when she was hired, she asked Peter Jackson if there would be a love triangle because she didn't want one in there. She wouldn't take the job if there was in there, and so he promised her, and written in her contract, legally binding, it states that he could not put her in a love triangle. So he finished the main shooting of the movie. He showed what they had to New Line Cinema, the production company, and New Line Cinema came back and said, oh, well, this is okay, but there's no romance. And he's like, yeah, there's no romance in the book. And he's like, we want romance. And he's like, well, there is kind of the thing between Legolas and Tauriel. And they're like, nah, make it a love triangle. I don't know how it worked or how it went down, but from my understanding, he was pretty mad, and he probably fought them tooth and nail, but it came down to they control the rights. They wanted a love triangle, and if he wouldn't put in a love triangle, they'd find someone else who would. Or they just wouldn't release the movies. And he was just kind of like, you can't see me tapping my feet, but I'm like, so he came to Lily Evangeline. She said he was very reluctant and he looked very angry and frustrated and frazzled and said, okay, they are forcing me to put a love triangle in. I know you said you don't want one, and if you still don't want one, I will say that's okay. You don't have to. We can recast and reshoot everything. I am willing to do that to stand by your principles, because I promised you there wouldn't be one, and now you're thrown into one. And she was like, but I love the Lord of the Rings. Fine, I'll do it. So she did it, and she said the movie's a little bit better, but it's still a little frustrating. Don't hate on Peter. It wasn't his idea. In case you didn't know, when they cast the actor who played Philly, whose name's on the screen because I don't remember anyone's names, the thing that he had to read so he could be cast was watching Kili die in front of him. That's what the original one was. And fans have found, probably through hacking, some clips of Philly and Kili fighting by Thorin's side and being killed. And they're like, guys, this was the original thing. Why did they change it? The production company changed it, thank you very much. But again, I do think the romance makes the movies a little bit better. It's much more dramatic, but at the same time, the fan in me is going, no! There's no positive elf and dwarf interactions since Moria, and they don't really know why it happened. And even before then, the dwarves and elves have hated each other since Morgoth was on the earth. However, I love Tauriel. I love Tauriel. And it is canon that female elves can and will fight. Luthien rescued Beren from the dungeons of Morgoth, in case you didn't know, which is badass. So, female elves do fight. And they really needed women in The Hobbit, and Tolkien himself said that he really wished he could make changes to it because the elves are very silly. No, they're not. Anyway, so that's the only thing that really bothered me. Now let's breaking this down. Bard versus Smaug. Epic! Loved it! So good, except for the Black Arrow firing over his son's shoulder. There's no way his son would have gone without that unscathed. As a person who kept their finger up and too close to the arrow as I released and got a feather in my finger and had to have the feather pulled out by the nurse, yeah, that happened to me. So I know he wouldn't have been unscathed. That just wouldn't have happened. I love how they did Thorin and his dragon sickness and how he would just walk over the gold. I loved how he was quoting Smaug. That was really, really cool. And how you could see Bilbo going, But I also love Thorin and Bilbo's relationship. To everyone else, Thorin was uncle or king. But to Bilbo, he was his friend. And Bilbo never had to go. He never had to go, except he cared about these people, and he cared about their plight. He was willing to give up his life, go and help these guys. Especially in movie 1, Thorin realized that, and realized what a sacrifice Bilbo was making. And that's when they really became friends. The main reason that Thorin defeated it really is Bilbo. If you look at their relationship and the fact in the end, Bilbo was right. And how that affected Thorin. I love their relationship. It's so cool. And another thing. When Thorin gave Bilbo the Mithril shirt. In The Lord of the Rings, it is discussed in the extended edition that Bilbo's Mithril shirt is worth more than all of the Shire. In case you don't know, the only one with a Mithril shirt is Bilbo. And Thorin is the one because he had dragon sickness wandering around. He found it. Now, granted, it was probably too small for him, but he could have reworked it or had them work on it and just get the chest part or something so he could wear it. Instead, his first thought and automatic response was, a Mithril shirt, this is perfect for Bilbo. Everyone else of us has had a load of training. He can use Conquerors barely. He has that sword and he's not very good with it. He has no armor whatsoever. He needs that shirt. And so he gave it to Bilbo. And, in case you didn't realize, but the thought hit me in the theater watching it, if Thorin had kept the shirt for himself, even just the front, and worked it into his normal mail, he wouldn't have died. But he knew Bilbo might die, and it saved Bilbo's life, and it saved Frodo's life, all because of Thorin's sacrifice. Thorin died because he gave it to Bilbo and was okay with that, and knew that he may need it, and still gave it to Bilbo. It's just, I love the relationship. I love how they kept Galadriel defeating Sauron. That is legit. That is in the appendices. This is not them pulling stuff out of their butt. That's real. The only thing they didn't include is that Radagast the Brown and the 2 blues were there as well. Now, you may be also wondering, why didn't they include the blues then? They don't exist beyond there are 2 blue members of the Wizards. They don't have names. They don't have descriptions. We know more about Radagast the Brown. We know about Saruman. We know about Gandalf. We have no clue who the blues are. When Gandalf was like, I've forgotten their names for a second, I cracked up because they have no names in canon. It's hilarious. Going back to Galadriel. Galadriel is the most powerful person in Middle-earth. In case you don't know who she is of the direct line of the Great Elf High Kings. Because she is a girl, she didn't inherit that title, nor did she really want it. She was kind of like shunted to the side in the Silmarillion, they say that, and so she built her own kingdom with an elf of lower standing, which is, again, why Celeborn didn't go with her to the Undying Lands. But he loved her and respected her, and so in the actual appendices in the Return of the King right here, they say Galadriel discovers Gandalf and destroys Dol Guldur. She destroys it. They didn't keep that in, but she blew that thing to Kingdom Come. She got so mad, and then banished Sauron to the east, and he went down the east and fled back into Mordor. I love that they kept that in and showed just how powerful she was. And Elrond would be her equal, actually, because Elendil, you remember the light of Elendil, her most beloved star? Yeah, Elendil's Elrond's dad. But he is mostly human. He chose to be Eldar, but the human in him means that he is of a lesser standing than Galadriel when it comes to power. But I do love that he was kind of like, whoa! Are you alright? Someone was like, you need to get Galadriel out of here so she can recover, because that was like all of her power, but that was really cool. Another thing that I love is that we learn about Thranduil and why he's such a douche in The Hobbit, the book. Why he's the way he is, and why he didn't want to participate in the battle and hesitated, why he didn't want to do all these things. Well, I looked up other things about Thranduil. Thranduil was a prince during the last battle with Sauron in the marshes before the gates, and then the battle carried into the heart of Mordor and went all the way to the slopes of Mount Doom. His father died. And a whole bunch of elves die, as we saw. He had to become king out of that and rebuild his people out of that. Well then, as it says, he went, I don't remember, the title is on the screen, but he went to defeat that orc stronghold in the north. I think it was 1/3 of his men left. So he lost 2/3 of his army, including his wife. And it may have been less than that. He went with several thousand elves and he came back in the hundreds. And it's just heart-wrenching to think about that, and how Legolas is like, I don't know anything about my mother. Even though their relationship strains and basically breaks in the course of the two movies that Legolas and Thranduil are in, Thranduil does care. And there's actually this pin on Pinterest all the time, which is Thranduil when he's getting a death threat and he's just kind of cool and calm and totally like, yeah, seriously? I don't believe you. And then it showed when his son leaves, and it showed the tears in his eyes, and it's like Thranduil has his priorities straight, and he does. His life doesn't matter to him as much as his relationship with Legolas. And it does break, but I like that Thranduil started to try to repair that by first talking about Legolas's mom, his wife, and second, where he talks about Aragorn. They're like, Strider, we don't know what his real name is, and then the whole audience is thinking, Aragorn! I love that. I really, really love that. Another thing that I love is the annoying hilarity of Alfred. He was really annoying, and I hate that he doesn't die or get the crap kicked out of him, but in the end, Bard is just kind of like, your corset's slipping. He's just like, you are so stupid and pathetic. Oh my gosh. It's just like, whatever. But it also showed Bard's compassion and how he's just like, eh. Going to another thing that a lot of fans have issue with is the title. A lot of people hated the title change. I didn't. And the main reason is because when they said, okay, it's not going to be 2, it's going to be 3, my first thought was they have to change it to the Battle of the Five Armies, because that's the last third of the book. That really is. The last third of the book is the Battle of the Five Armies, and then a little bit after that of Bilbo traveling back, and then him going home. I know a lot of people hiked there and back again, and it worked. It worked for it being half of them reaching the mountain and then Bilbo going home. That's what makes sense. They're already at the mountain. They've been at the mountain. There's no there. It just doesn't make sense. The Battle of the Five Armies makes much more sense. Moving on to the battle was really well done. I loved it. I loved it. It was so cool to see it all come together, and that moment where the elves launched over the backs of the dwarves who were flailing and into the heart of the orcs. Oh, it was so good. And still, I would have preferred the original version, but it was pretty good how it went down. Another thing about how it went down, Philly's death. I'm wearing Philly's hairstyle. I don't know if you noticed. Probably didn't. His death, the first thing I thought, I went, that's a good way to change it. That type of death is in the Silmarillion. There is a moment where the elves in the war with Morgoth, there's several princes, there's brothers, twins or not, I don't know. I could not keep characters' names straight. Literally, a character would be there for a few paragraphs and then die. Same kind of thing happened in this point. One brother's captured, or his group is overwhelmed. The other brother falls back to some sort of fortress or fortified area, and the orcs can't break through, and they can't break through, and they can't break through, and they can't break through. Well, to break through, they drag the brother of the leader in the fortress and torture him to death in front of him. And just like with Killy and Thorin, it pissed off the elf enough that he came out of his fortifications with his military and was slaughtered. That is an old orc tactic, what they did. So if they're going to change it, that was a good change, because that is exactly from the Silmarillion. That is what the orcs know. That is something that they're taught. Their commanders would know that tactic. It makes perfect sense. Exactly like what they did when they killed Thror before the entrance to Moria. Just like then, that's what they did again, because that's an orc tactic. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Really, really good. And then the last part is the auction. All the fans were not certain, myself included, that they were going to keep the auction in. And the moment that they went to it and Bilbo was like, wait a minute, that's my chair. I love that. And they kept in Lobilla stealing his silverware. Oh, perfect. Starting his hatred of the Sackville Bagginses, which aren't in the theater version of the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, but that is mentioned in the Fellowship of the Ring in the extended versions, because that's legit. It is not as good as Desolation of Smaug, because Desolation of Smaug transcended the book. Yes, I said it. It definitely did. Having the dwarves battle Smaug, it transcended it, because I hated that they didn't do a darn thing. They didn't help the people of Lake Town. They never helped the people of Lake Town. They didn't try to defend it. They didn't face Smaug at all. They just kind of let it happen. I hated that, and I thought it was cowardly, and so they changed it, and I loved it. So it doesn't transcend the book, but it matches the book. Mostly. It's really well done, in my opinion. I'm sad. It's the end. This is the last time we're going into Middle-earth, because Christopher Tolkien and this guy has blocked it. Turns out New Line Cinema tried to rip them off, which sadly apparently is common, and they had to sue, and they got pissed. But The Hobbit, they haven't had the rights since the 70s or 80s or something like that. But they're not going to let them do the Silmarillion. They will not hand this over. They're not going to let them do History of Middle-earth. This is the end. Until Christopher Tolkien passes away, that's the way it is. And even after, it may still be the same. That was one last time. Do you guys want me to do a review of the extended edition? Desolation of Smaug didn't change it enough for me to do a secondary review, like, at any point. I was surprised it didn't change it very much, but hopefully they'll add a few more things to the Battle of the Five Armies. Let me know if you guys are interested in that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to see more. As always, more videos coming. Again, giveaway linked down below. Good luck with your reading and your movie watching, and I may be in this same outfit filming a second video that happens to be about another book to movie adaptation called Insurgent. I might change my hair though. I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Take my shoes off. But it makes for a whole bunch of different people. I want to say Morgoth, that's a god's name. Basically they're devil. I can't believe I forgot it. Moria. Not says Moria. Oh gosh. Bye, kitty! Oh, here I'm capturing him so it shows the internet. Say hello to the internet again! Hello, internet! Hello! I can't help it. He's so cute. He's just so stinking cute, even if he's terrified of the lights and the camera and everything. Run away! Okay. So, I got hair all over me. And on my face, and he got some hair in his ear, too. Oh, he's starting to shed. It's getting hot in Arizona. Ugh. Trying to remember where I was and where I was going with it. Another thing that I love is how, yeah, and he was, excuse my booty, Bard versus Smaug. Epic! Sorry, my cat's shaking his head. And we talked about, I didn't talk with you guys about anything. His mom, and where's my second braid? That's my first braid. There's my second braid. Where's my second braid? This one's on top. This one's kind of getting buried. You weren't supposed to fall. I don't know. Thrain, not Thrain. By having the works, but hopefully they'll add in a few more things to this one. Battle of Fun. This one. Forgot there. Hopefully they'll add a few more things to. I lost it again.